Well, first of all, let me just thank everybody for joining me and joining the team this morning for a quick update on where we are. As you may have heard and saw last Thursday, we presented to the board the results of the survey that we put out. I'm, really excited that 94,000 responses that we received from not only our students, our parents, and community leaders, really sharing some of their feedback with us. And as the team put together a great report. It looks like the majority of our families want to come back and try to get back not only to school, but also that's what we saw from kids, parents, and from the teachers that that submitted the survey, just in generalities. I mean, that was a big piece. So one of the things that as I continue to look at where we are and what we're going to do, obviously, as I said publicly at the board meeting, and I continue to shared with the State Board of Education, number one factor for us to come back is obviously the health and wellness of not only of our students, but also of our children and parents and staff to make sure that we are safe following the CDC guidelines. As I committed to this board, my school board of trustees, that June 25th, that we will have a plan. I'm confident that my team, the team will be able to bring together the recommendations of where we are. Update on where we are today. So I reviewed a little bit, a 123-page document that we're working through, now getting into more of the details. As we explained to the board, when we're looking at a phase 2, which is currently the phase that we're in, the reason that we selected a phase 2 to try to attempt to start the school year is because that would be the toughest. That would be the toughest for us to be able to implement. We don't know. We may go to phase 3, phase 4, and come back depending on what the virus is telling us. So what we're looking at, we're now looking and bringing to the board a model, a recommendation, giving a lot of the different varieties that are available for us to work through. How do we get kids on a bus? How do we get kids in a school? How do we offer recess? How do we provide our students a high quality education following the CDC guidelines? Do we clean schools before, after? So all of those details are what we are currently working, and we will be bringing that to the board June 25th with the recommendation. So a lot of different moving parts, a lot of different pieces that we're trying to figure out now. Obviously, the number one and the most important for us, the number one and most important aspect of this is not only safety, the wellness, but then the instruction and how do we then provide the instructional opportunity for our students in elementary, middle, and high school. What I said, to the board, and what we go back to what I've learned from the closure to where we are as decentralized system as we are. One of the things that we are when we do this and we come back, we've had principals, parents, teachers, administrators part of our reopening group. One of the things that we are going to have a plan that is going to be a very standard plan, because it's going to come out. We're not going to have the autonomy for some schools to do X and other schools to do Y. So we've learned that we have to really provide a consistent message and a consistent approach. One of the biggest challenges that I can tell you that we have is that we don't have any information on the budget. What will the budget look like for us to be able to implement? So this is where we continue to have conversations. Had a conversation with the state superintendent on Thursday, after the board meeting on Thursday. We met Sunday, all superintendents met. We met this morning again to really look and pin down what that looks like. We're still waiting for the executive branch to send us to give us a better picture on the dollars for us for school year. So we're planning, but really still waiting on the budget. The other piece that we are kind of getting into the time to open up school. My administrators are 11-month. They all go home Friday. So time we have to communicate, continue that communication with our leadership at our schools, that we just can't turn a switch and make a decision to say, here, our principals need time, whatever that looks like. They need to build master schedules. They need to be able to put whatever that system is in place, and we're running out of time. And this is what I said to the board on Thursday. And I appreciate you being here and sending that message. We are running out of time for us to be able to open up school safely without some of the details on the numbers. So now I'll turn it over, Mauricio, for some questions.
Thanks so much. So yeah, I'll just go down the list, folks. We'll start with John Trainer, Channel 3. John, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you for doing this, Superintendent. We're obviously running out of time, as you said. Do you need that budget and those financial numbers in order to put a plan in place, or can the school create a plan without knowing the final budget number?
Well, John, that's a great question. And we are putting a plan in place because I can't wait. So we're putting a plan in place. We do have a budget, right? We do have a budget that our board adopted, but, which is, and we a $37-38 million projection with projections. I met with the CFO this morning. If the numbers that have to go a lot higher than that, that becomes a problem for us that we'll have to go back and make some decisions and make some changes in August and July, which is a little bit problematic for us to be making changes and making decisions and making cuts then. So, technically we do have a budget. We're going to move forward with planning as if that's the number that we are going to have to make some reductions. But if the number is larger than that, it's going to be a problem.
What are the biggest financial holdups for you that you see playing out here?
I'm going to tell you, following social distancing around transportation, that's going to be a problem for us. The cleaning of our schools in between, at the end of the day, before making sure that our kids are, come back, are cleaning and following the guidelines, really looking at our playgrounds and our students. So all of these things that are really operational that may impact the safety of our kids is something where we're seeing an increase in our numbers and making some decisions around, obviously that we've put out a request on the governor's task force around the PPEs for our students, for our families, 320,000 students, 42,000 employees. So all of these requests that we have out there, we still are waiting for some final answers.
We talked to a lot of both parents and teachers, and as this school year, as the summer continues, as school year approaches, as people are going back to work, they want to know, are kids going to be in school, or do they need to plan for some sort of home learning and changing their life around?
That's why I committed to the Board of Trustees that we will have a decision and a recommendation on June 25th, because we need to know, and everybody needs to know, and as I talk to my colleagues across the country, where as fast as we could end the year, get graduations, and now plan on what August looks like. I felt, the end of the month of June, it's not ideal. It is late, but we're still waiting on some answers. And these are the things this is the best that we can do. So by the end of the month, we'll have an answer for our families.
Mauricio, I probably don't have much time. Can I have one more question? And then
Go ahead quickly. Yeah.
You had at the board meeting earlier last month an expert come in and say this was the most decentralized school district in the country, and that's going to give you problems. How big a challenge has it been to get every school to have the same access to the same education for its students?
That is one, and I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's one of the things, unintended consequences of that law that really decentralized. And when you look at the learning opportunity for kids, there hasn't been an urban school system that is so decentralized where they've seen improvement in student achievement. So that's something that we certainly are working on. We started last year with a balanced assessment for all students. We're now looking at, what do we look at for instructional materials? So we're bringing principals in and teachers to help. But we have to, with our mobility rate, with our students moving from school to school, this is why we have to have a coherent curriculum in making the decisions to address the challenges and really looking to focus on student achievement.
Thanks so much, John. We have Chris Redfern next with Channel 5. Chris, you have a question? We'll come back to Chris. We'll go with Channel 8, Kristen Drummond. Kristen, you have a question?
Dr. Jara. I know during last week's Board of Trustees meeting, Trustee Ford had mentioned possibly having CCSD be 3 weeks behind, possibly looking at what other school districts would be doing and not being essentially, as she called it, the guinea pig. Do you think it would be wise to see what other urban school districts are doing before CCSD decides to bring children back?
You know, Chris, that's a great question. I've been in contact with the Council of Great City Schools with, 74 urban superintendents. We meet on a weekly basis, and we're getting some of the plans and we're sharing. I also sit on the AASA, which is the National Association for Superintendents. I'm on the COVID task force as a superintendent there. So I am constantly receiving information with my colleagues across the country with what districts are doing and planning to do, and we're sharing our plan. They're sharing, so we are working collectively as a whole. This is not something that we were planned and trained to really deal with. So we are working across the country with everybody to see, how we're going to open up school following the guidelines of the CDC.
So when you mentioned that your biggest challenge would be, transportation right now, cleaning, does that mean you would possibly try and add maybe more people to help with cleaning or elongate hours, despite, possibly dealing with a budget shortage?
But that's one of the things that we're looking at. I mean, what is if we're going to have to clean? Because parents said they want to come back to school and be, clean schools are number one, number two priority. Those are when you look at that survey, that was one of the most important things for them. So we have to look at what's the feasibility. Is it going to take us 4 hours, 2 hours to clean a school before our kids use it? So that has an impact on how we open up school and where do we go.
Lastly, I wanted to clarify, you mentioned, I believe it was like $37 or $38 million. Are you expecting that not to be in your budget, and you're right now trying to figure out what to do if you don't have all that money?
No, yeah. Thank you for asking the clarifying question. What the board adopted with making projections when we made those projections was looking at the recession from 2008, looking at some of those numbers. That's what we're waiting for, to see what that number is the final number is going to be that we have to cut, and that's part of the challenge that we have right now. So we're going with that projection as we are opening school.
Thanks so much, Kristen. We have Jeremy Chen, Channel 13. Jeremy, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Hello, Dr. Jara. Jeremy with Channel 13. With the results of that survey, one of the most notable things was a majority of parents obviously want to go back to school, but did not want to see any more distance learning per se. And of course, with this pandemic, that will obviously have to happen. How is that challenging what's you're trying to recommend to the board? How measures have that played into that?
I want to go back and what was shared also, it was to get an input, to provide input for us to see where engaged with the community is. Not everybody's going to be happy with the final outcome, right? I mean, I think that's one of the things that we have to understand, but we're going to do the best we can for our kids, following the guidelines, make sure that we're healthy, and knowing that we were not ready, and we're not, because there has been a limited investment in professional development, in technology. There's a huge digital divide that we have in this community. So all of those things are going into our decision-making process for our schools and what school's going to look like in August.
Of course, and in that same survey, it was also mentioned about 4,000 students, unfortunately, were not able to be reached during the time distance learning was implemented. Are there any plans in place whenever schools reopen to address that particular area?
Absolutely. And one of the things that we've learned, and back to what you just heard a minute ago about collaborating with my colleagues across the country, there's some school system, Tulsa. One of the things that we've learned from Tulsa, they've had some, they put a system in place with social workers that they're constantly calling and staying engaged with their families and most vulnerable community. So we've put some of those things in place as well now this summer, and we're going to continue to do that. Make sure that that we don't leave anybody out there that we're not trying to connect with.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. We have Alex with the Review Journal. Alex, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Jara. Your working group discussed 8 different options, ranging from alternating weeks to, days and things like that. Is there one option that the district is currently leaning towards And then in a second part, if the plan is to reopen school buildings, will the district provide PPE to students as well as staff?
So that's a great question. And one of the things that we're looking at, do I favor, I would love to have all our kids back. And, from everybody but obviously we have to look at class size. We have to look at social distancing. We have to look at our teachers want our kids. Everybody wants to be back. Obviously that's one of the things that we're working, making sure that everybody's safe. So, we're looking at the feasibility, the affordability, because if we are to look at putting kids on a bus and social distancing, how many more buses do we need? Can I get buses? Can we put, our class sizes are so large. When you look at our 900 square foot classroom, how many kids can I put in a school, in a classroom? Our buildings so I can't tell you right now which one I'm in favor of, because it would be unfair. I'm going to be, we're working on a couple of different models that we will be sharing with the Board of Trustees on the 25th. That's number one. Number two was on the PPE. Those are some of the cost factors that we're taking into place, that that we provide PPEs for our students and our staff.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm sorry, one more. Has CCSD gotten its CARES Act disbursement?
We are currently applying for it, and it's around $82 million. And that is not to, that's one of the things that we're putting in place. We're waiting on what that number is to cut, so then we can then find ways that we minimize the impact to our employees.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jackie Valley with the Nevada Independent. Do you have a question?
Yes. Hi, Dr. Jara. My question is about teacher recruitment and retention. Most years we see a teacher shortage anyway. What's that picture looking like this year? And on top of that, are you getting a lot of fears or hesitancy from teachers who may be in a vulnerable population for COVID?
Yeah, no, the number, and actually was asked at the state board meeting, and we can get the exact number to you, but a lot of our teachers, the majority of our teachers said that they're coming back, our current teachers. So now those that are in the most vulnerable population, we're in conversations right now with the county, about testing, and UMC about testing our employees. So we're having some of these high level conversations, putting a plan in place to protect them. But those are factors that we're taking into place as to offering choice of our employees and our students. We also have students that are medically fragile as well, that we have to also take into account and find ways to address. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. But as far as recruiting, our HR team is really finding different ways to recruit our teachers through this process as well, which as it's always been a challenge, and this is just adds to it this year.
And I'm glad you mentioned that the testing component. What do you anticipate happening when the school year starts? Do you think employees and students, or just one group or the other, will face some sort of testing?
We're having conversations right now, like I said, with the county. And one of the things that we've put out there's testing now, but the challenge is that you can get tested today at 10 o'clock and then be negative, and then be positive at the end of the day, or be positive the next morning. So those are the things. What is that ongoing plan? So those are those are the discussions that our director of health and nurses is having with UMC and with the county, and what does that process look like? But go get tested now if you want to know, and we're recommending that. If we put that out there, I've been working with our partners in Southern Nevada to really have that as an option for our employees.
Thank you, Jackie. We have Sarah with the Las Vegas Sun. Sarah, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Did you say when you'll get more details about the budget?
No, we're still waiting on the numbers right now. I know that the governor announced yesterday a special session, but we're still waiting on what that looks like. We don't know.
What are some of the details about the budget that you do know right now?
What I presented to the board, the 37, the 38, it's about $38 million in reduction that we have within our budget at this point. That's as far as I know what we presented. We don't have any other information that I can share publicly or with anybody because it's not information that I have.
Okay. And then based on the survey, did you get a sense of how many parents said they're going to keep their kids at home when the schools do open?
No, we don't have that. We don't have that data, but I know that that could be an option and that could be a possibility. So we're looking at all those different factors in order for us to open school.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Channel 5 is having some technical difficulties, but they did text me a question, and they were hoping to ask you, Dr. Jara, how you plan to have safety protocols in place with special education students, as it could be a little bit different with that student population.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and those are the factors that we're putting in place. And again, it goes back to the social distance, the medically fragile students, and those are the ones. Obviously, all our kids are important, and we're taking all the precaution. But those are the precautions that we have to take with our special needs population, especially medically fragile. Obviously, the constant cleaning. And then the social distance is going to be a challenge, but something that we're working through right now, and then learning from what other districts are doing. I know that the Council of Great City Schools sent us a report, what other districts are doing that has been put together. So that collaboration has been very helpful for us.
Thank you so much. Telemundo, do you have a question?
Sí, ¿me escucha, doctor
Buenos
Jara?
días.
Hola, buenos días. Gracias por su tiempo en hacer esto. Mi pregunta es, un poquito de lo que ya se ha hablado, obviamente, pero en español, sobre los resultados de esta encuesta o de este estudio que se hizo. ¿Qué es los datos que más le interesaron a usted de estas respuestas?
Sí, gracias por la pregunta. Los datos son lo más interesante, que todo el mundo quiere que los niños vengan a la escuela, que abrimos las escuelas para los estudiantes. Así que estamos trabajando para la oportunidad esa, pero lo primero más es que la salud de los estudiantes y de los profesores y los empleados es lo más importante a este momento.
¿Qué es cómo encontró usted la participación en este estudio? ¿Le satisfactoria la participación?
Sí, fue algo que fue 94,000 respondieron al survey, así que fue algo que muy interesante y fue en una semana, así que algo que me quedé muy alegre con eso.
¿Cómo va a utilizar el CCSD, el distrito escolar, estas respuestas o esta información de lo que ustedes vieron, de lo que piensa el público y profesores?
Sí, eso es importante para ver lo que vamos a hacer, cómo vamos a abrir las escuelas en agosto.
Y hasta ahorita, ¿qué es lo que tienen hasta el momento de cómo sería este regreso a la educación?
Bueno, eso es lo que estamos trabajando y averiguar cómo lo vamos a hacer, si lo vamos a hacer con computadora, en papel, y eso es lo que estamos ahora, si van a venir todos los días, un día en la mañana, en la tarde, eso es lo que estamos ahora, el presupuesto para ver cómo es que si lo podemos hacer todo el día, eso es lo que estamos ahora averiguando.
¿Qué es lo que personalmente usted ha notado, tal vez en otros distritos escolares también? ¿Qué es lo que podría funcionar mejor para nosotros?
Sí, es que todo, te voy a decir algo, de todo lo estamos tratando de averiguar cómo vamos a hacer esto. Y lo que estamos viendo es que no vamos a poder atraer todos los estudiantes. Tú sabes, si seguimos como estamos, como el virus está, va a ser un problema que cómo vamos a poder darle educación con tantos estudiantes que tenemos en las escuelas.
¿Y para cuándo sucedería esto? ¿O para cuándo se espera tomar una decisión y actuar en cuanto a esto?
El 25 de junio le vamos a dar las recomendaciones a la Junta Escolar.
Muy bien. ¿Y cuándo espera que las clases pudieran otra vez retomarse en persona o con los estudiantes?
Estamos para llegar el 10 de agosto. Ojalá.
Ojalá que para el 10 de agosto. Y sí. Otra pregunta, en cuanto a los protocolos de salud, ¿cómo están pensando implementar esto? ¿Se van a hacer pruebas a los maestros, a los alumnos? ¿O ya sé que cuando empieza el ciclo escolar se tienen que tomar todas las vacunas los niños? ¿Cómo van a hacer esto?
Eso es lo que estamos ahora trabajando con el condado y con el departamento de salud. Eso son cosas que estamos en comunicaciones, pero no hemos decidido nada.
Muy
Y
bien.
nada más para los empleados, no para los estudiantes.
Un mensaje para los padres ya por último, en cuanto a los padres que están al pendientes de esto, que les preocupa, pues la educación de sus hijos, pues incluyéndome a mí también.
Sí, es lo más importante, a ver, te voy a decir, lo más importante de la decisión es que va a venir el 25 de junio la recomendación, y segundo va a ser que te voy a decir, lo más importante es la salud de los estudiantes y de los maestros.
Muy bien, bueno, gracias.
Gracias.
Gracias, Abel. Univisión, ¿tienes una pregunta? Univisión. Okay, pues. All right, folks, time for one more quick question from each of you. If you could just be prepared, appreciate it. We're going to go down the list in reverse. Telemundo, did you have one more final question? All right, thank you.
Disculpe, algo más que, sorry, es que corté la llamada, pero algo más que le gustaría a usted agregar, doctor Jara, en cuanto a los preparativos que se están realizando, las juntas que están teniendo. ¿El público va a participar también, va a seguir participando en estas reuniones, dando su opinión?
Sí, el 25 de junio le vamos a dar la recomendación, así que esperen y ahí se las decimos.
Bueno, ok, gracias.
Yes. Sarah at the Las Vegas Sun, did you have one more final quick question?
Are you planning with certain dates that school might open depending on what you find out June 25th?
No, I mean, we're shooting for an August 10th right now. You know, it all depends. There's a lot of variables at this point, Sarah, that we're working through right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Jackie Valley, one last question.
On June 25th, so you'll present the recommendations and then it's up to the board to approve that if they so choose?
Well, I think right now, I mean, you know, here's where we're going to do the best move forward. We're still waiting on, you know, obviously the ultimate decision is with as stated when the schools were closed by the state chief health officer for the state of Nevada. So ultimately, the final decision will be from the State Department.
Thank you, Jackie. Alex with the Review Journal.
Yes, so I had a similar question to Jackie. So the process will be you guys will bring recommendations to the board and the board will vote to accept them possibly, and then you'll wait on the final word from the state?
Yeah, yes, Alex and Jackie, okay. I think we'll move forward and then we'll present to the board. And then obviously then we'll have to, if you look at last week's directive from the governor, you know, we have to then submit that to the State Department as well for them to approve it.
Okay, sure. And is reopening schools for summer a part of those considerations?
No, we have, you know, right now we've made some decisions about summer school because, you know, when the recommendations that we received from the state last week, we already started summer school. Summer school started for us June 1. So we're not going to change course as of right now. We're still doing ESY because those are our most medically fragile students that we're going to still provide that online. And then we're also looking at our credit recovery and some of the other programs. That's going to stay for now through distance learning. We're looking at some of the recent recommendation and potentially making some changes, but at this point, we're still moving forward with distance education for the summer.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Jeremy Chen, Channel 13.
Yes, real quick, in regards to athletics, any plans that athletic teams are able to access school facilities during the summer, pending governor's orders?
So, you know, at this point, we're analyzing that. I mean, because obviously there was a lot of restrictions in time and social distancing. So we'll be sharing that with our coaches and our principals right now in the coming week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Kristen Drummond, Channel 8.
Dr. Jara, I know as you're going forward, how frustrating is it to put all these plans in place, but still not knowing what your budget's going to be? Because whatever plans you put in place, they honestly could almost be just tossed out the window once you realize what money you have, it seems.
One of the biggest challenges that I'm facing is that it's a lack of knowing what the numbers may be. And that's part of what the challenge and the frustration that I'm feeling, you know, and especially when my principals and my elementary and middle school principals are all going home on Friday. You know, and that means SOTs have to meet, and all of these different things that, you know, when you're opening up a school in August, everybody's going home, you know, because they're 11-month employees. The only ones that are 12-month are high school principals. So there's a lot of stress being put on a lot of folks, and we don't have the numbers right now. So we're going on the 30, on the best numbers that we have. But you're right. There's potential that, you know, that we may have to go back and revisit. So I'm sending my information. I can't wait, as you've heard, you know, from earlier questions here. Our community wants to know, and that's why we are doing. I, as superintendent for Clark County School District, I am sharing with my community. Here's where we're going, and here's with the best information that we have today.
Okay.
Thank you, Kristen. Second question texted to me, Dr. Jara from Channel 5. They wanted to know if there's a certain school district around the nation or even overseas that we're using as a model on possibly reopening, something that's worked for them.
We're looking at everything. You know, obviously, I mentioned Tulsa, they're doing some things. You know, Miami-Dade is doing other things. And you're looking at, you know, Chicago. There's there's variables. San Antonio's got some really good things that they've shared. So it's a hodgepodge, and then also we're receiving information from other school systems across the world. So we're, you know, the team is, you know, looking at all the different plans every night. There's a lot of night reading, but we're looking at everything to see what fits for CCSD.
Thank you so much. And last question, John Trainer, Channel 3.
Yeah, Dr. Jara, have you suspended any administrative contracts, or are you looking at taking pay cuts at the administrative level?
No, we have not, John. We're not looking at, you know, any other bargaining units in the contracts.
Why not, as other unions across the county and the state are trying to do that to make up for the deficit?
You know, well, obviously we have collective bargaining, you know, and that's part of where something that it's a conversation that we have. Again, I don't know what the numbers is. You know, I think with the 37 million that, you know, the 37 million that we have to, if we have to cut, I think we're in a good spot, because now we have the CARE Act dollars that will be able to help us, you know, and that's where I feel very confident. If that's the number, we'll be okay this coming year without having to do any bargaining, any discussions with our bargaining units.
If it's a bigger number, would administrative positions, not at the teacher level, but the higher level in the school district, take cuts?
Well, you know, when you're looking at, when you look at our numbers, you look at our budget, when you know, as a central office, it's not like we have extra folks here in the district office either. I mean, you know, you look at our budget that was presented to the board, there's $108 million in schools, you know, that from carry forward, from supplies, from a lot of that, you know, so there's opportunities to be able to get to where we need to be without having to really make some of these drastic numbers, unless, you know, as you've heard in some of the questions, if we know, and I'm being told from what I'm being told from the state superintendent, that obviously education is a priority at the state level, which is great, but I just need to know what those numbers are.
Folks, thank you so much. Appreciate your time, Dr. Jara. Thank you so much.
Thank you.